Ladies, gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Both Sides Podcast. We're joined none other by David Highland from Highland Property Group, the CEO. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. My first question, because I've actually had it on my mind for the past couple of years as well, or past year or two. We got messaged by someone in the Highland Group and they said, ask David about his, about Nautilus. They said, Nautilus? Is that how you pronounce it? The house?
Nautilus.
Nautilus. The apparently the Maloofs believe it's the best house ever listed.
Yes, Bill Maloof did validate that, and that's saying something coming from him. He's seen the best of the best at an Australian level. So yeah, I mean that's a great place to start. I was invited into a landmark property by Sydney standards. So just to kind of give you a high-level picture as to what this home is. It was built about 10 years ago by a client of ours and friend, Kylie and Steve Shelley. And they've developed a property over a 3-lot subdivision, and it's 4,500 square metres, the block of land, but it's 4,000 square metres under the roof. So it's a big property. And I was invited to pitch on it, and we won the listing, and then through my association with Bill and David Maloof, and this came before our merger with them. I invited them to become a sort of co-lister on it with us, and we took it to market through pretty challenging times, being COVID and lockdown, and we had a phenomenal offer on it, well above the local market. Unfortunately for us, but fortunate for them, they decided to sit on it and stay in the property. But yeah, I mean, above 50 million at that time for a Sutherland Shire property was huge money and a real endorsement on the local market. What's
the current record at the moment in the Sutherland Shire?
We have the current record. It's about 20.
20, and that was nearly 3 times as much.
Yeah. And right now they definitely fetch more than that. But we had an offer in the low 50s at the time.
Jeez Louise, man.
Where does that money come from? Is it local for the buyer for that type of property?
Great question. So we ran an international marketing campaign on it, and we had a lot of overseas inquiry for it. I had a lot of local inquiry for it. The buyer was Strathfield area at the time. Yeah. Wow. And we actually, funny enough, I had probably 12 inspections. I'd say more than half of them were for holiday homes.
Yeah, wow.
Jeez.
There you go.
So a really special property for a really special client.
Yeah, it is a very special. I remember seeing the pictures. It was wild. And when you say, you're targeting the international market, how do you go about that? How do you go about targeting an international client?
A lot of it was database focus. So we explored, Forbes and other kind of publications overseas. We were leaning on a digital strategy, and that served us well. But we were also talking to sort of overseas networks in terms of agents and key people, in that high net worth space. But whether it was because people couldn't get on a plane and fly out to see it or not, it was very much a local buyer that was interested in it, and they weren't the only ones. There was a handful of Sutherland Shire clients that had the capacity to buy it, but that client from Strathfield was the standout.
Jeez.
There you go. Well, mate, that's a good place to start, so thanks, Kev. But we spoke a bit off air about your portfolio of enterprise that you've been able to create, which is quite impressive. For the listeners that may not have an understanding of actually how big Highland Group is, do you reckon you could just share a little bit about your journey, where you are today and what's to come?
So we started our business 17 years ago. We literally had our 17th birthday 2 weeks ago.
Congratulations.
Which is a great milestone. The current group, as it stands, consists of around 50 sales teams. We transact on about 2.5 billion in sales annually. Through winter, we've achieved about 500 million in sales through this winter, which, I mean, they're pretty strong results in this current market. So very proud of that. The rent roll business for us is on the way up.
Yep.
Within the next quarter, we'll have close to 5,000 managements across our group. With that, there's over 50 staff in our property management division.
50 staff.
Yeah, which is a big division.
Wow.
And it really underpins the growth of the group. we're in the financial services space. So I've got a partner, Tim Barrett, who's 20 years with CBA Private, who heads up that division. So we're doing home loans, commercial lending, and other sort of offerings to our clients. We're also in insurance. So we've got a small insurance arm that we JV with another group, because insurance is a highly lucrative space, but very relevant to our current group. Our projects division, and you're currently sitting in one of our showrooms. We manage about 50 projects on our books. That consists of about 2,000 properties for sale off the plan.
2,000?
Thereabouts. And then more recently, we got into the marine space, and about 2 years ago, we acquired a marina in Cronulla, which we've recently rebranded. It's called Calico Marina.
Calico?
If you look online, it's Calico means pink shell. The Aboriginal name for Cronulla is Karanulla, which is also pink shell. There's the relevance. So a really, really fun asset to be involved in, and we're managing about 100 boats.
100?
100 boats on the marina. We recently just opened a brokerage arm as well, and we're building out a food and beverage offering with the Grounds of Alexandria at the moment. So there's a lot going on, but that's definitely one of the passion projects at the moment.
Mate, it sounds like that you're becoming the jack of all trades.
We've got a very unique business model, and I've got some great people in it that run it. What's
been your favourite out of the bunch, or if you could kind of say, or is it each one's been a stepping stone to help build the other?
I would say that's probably it. The having the courage to get outside of your comfort zone is probably one of the big lessons for me. But also, stretching and really understanding that, our current business model has some opportunity to sort of bolt adjacent revenue streams into it. What was another? The whole group is underpinned by an incredibly strong leadership team. So I don't pretend to do it all myself. In fact, I don't. I'm the guy that throws all these crazy ideas up. They're the ones that actually execute it.
Yeah.
But I'm very blessed to be able to go to work with my friends. But like we were talking before we started, you asked me a question about development. Our business model is not property development, and I can't say that it will be. I'm very much about staying in our lane, and whilst the marina is a little bit outside of traditional real estate, it's very similar in terms of its fundamentals. I said to you before we started, it's almost like a floating property management business, and we actually operate it the same way through the same software.
Really?
We actually run it through PropertyMe, which is really interesting.
No way.
So, look, I guess to answer your question, the business model for us is very predictable, but all of the different sort of departments that we've built out are relevant to each other.
I've seen other agencies and franchises do stuff where they bolt on like a financial arm or what have you, but I've never seen someone diversify as far out as you, and so quickly too. Like, you've really ramped it up really quick. Who taught you how to go, yep, that's a good idea, that's a good idea, and that they're going to merge well? Is it just taking a leap of faith, or were you getting mentored by someone along the way?
I'm blessed to have a lot of good consultants around me. Excuse me. It's like anything. So you should never take a leap of faith on anything unless you've got the right information around you, and you've also got good people around you that will give you information that you don't want to hear.
Yeah, wow.
So you don't want yes people around you at our level. I want people that are going to be objective. I want people that are going to have an opinion. I want people around me that are going to keep me accountable. But I want information, and I can see opportunity in our business outside of traditional real estate. In fact, I think the real estate office of the next 10 years is not what it's been for the last 20 or 30. If you look at the fundamentals of a property management department outside of our group, and not everybody, but broadly, they're still run the same way that they were 30 years ago. And that's just not limited to property management. That is also sales. So if you look at the opportunity now, particularly with data, AI, analytics, and then you kind of bolt that together with a highly sophisticated leadership and management platform, the opportunities are endless. But we're looking for predictable revenue streams that mirror the rest of our group and creating opportunities for the people in it.
Yeah. And I guess I've seen, like I said, I've seen other agencies, you know, franchises and what have you, go into state, but it's very rare to see an independent go to a different state. You've gone to Bowral, completely different side of the city.
Not exactly a new state, but yeah.
No, then you've gone to Gold Coast now too.
Yes.
Now you're going to Gold Coast. What's the driving force behind doing that?
So let's just talk about those two opportunities. So the Gold Coast really spawned from an opportunity that I was presented with at the beginning of lockdown in 2020. So long story short, I bought an apartment up on the Gold Coast in the middle of lockdown. I was one of those maniacs that bought it off FaceTime.
Did you?
Sight unseen. I was that guy.
I love those guys.
So did the agent. No, he was a mate of mine, Ptolemy Stevens. I'll make a mention of Ptolemy. But we bought an apartment up there in Broadbeach in 2020. And then through inside and outside of lockdown, I really fell in love with the Gold Coast. And we weren't Gold Coast people. When I say we, my wife and the family. So we started to get more embedded in that community. And through one of the lockdowns, we lived up there for sort of 8 weeks, which was really special. But I got an opportunity to really focus on their market, and their market was exploding at this point. So then we've got a client, Summit Group, who are close friends of ours and long-term clients, and they bought a site up there in Garfield Terrace, which we had a lot of success marketing. So off the back of that, other opportunities followed it, and that's why we opened a project marketing office up there. Bowral, on the other hand, came about through a mutual friend who put Karina, Nessie and I together. And the relevance behind Bowral is our Sutherland Shire and Double Bay network. There's a huge amount of referrals. There's a massive crossover between our eastern suburbs market and Bowral. I mean, a lot of that's discretionary spending in that marketplace. So to have some presence in that market, and also at a consumer level in the Southern Highlands, leverage our city network was a massive opportunity.
Massive, yeah. I guess having Bill and David come on board, what's been the biggest change with them? Like, has the business model changed since they came on board, or has it kind of kept?
Yeah, well, I mean, you met with David.
Yeah,
high energy,
and Bill too.
You can't slow David down.
No, you can't.
Have you had Bill on here yet?
Yeah, Bill's been on too.
So, I mean, you know the sort of guys they are. It's just a great relationship.
It is.
We're like family, and I think the decision to get into business with them, it wasn't from a need for us to scale the group at that point. Talking about lockdown in Queensland, I was in Queensland, and Anthony Bell rang me and said, I've got an opportunity for you, and that's where it started. In fact, we all flew back from Queensland to do the deal.
Wow.
But at the time, we had a very successful business locally. So I wasn't sort of striving to scale because we were necessarily looking at other office opportunities. But I knew at that point it would be pivotal in our growth. And I also knew that if we did Double Bay, we're making a commitment. There's going to be others. Yeah. We went from being a Cronulla real estate business to being a Sydney network at that point. And we didn't look back. And it's been an amazing journey. We're coming up 3 years together. It's a very good relationship. What have they taught me? They've shown me they've shown me a different way of doing real estate. You know, Bill's approach is very unique to Bill. There's a family that is incredibly connected and well respected. You know, they are authorities in their own right at a real estate level. David's work ethic is second to none. No one beats David. He's the first guy to take a phone call at 6 o'clock most mornings. We talk literally at 6 a.m. most mornings. And, you know, at a family level, we've all become very close. But and that's very much about what our partnerships are about. But what they've done for the group is really get us outside of what was a Cronulla real estate business.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, mate, it sounds like just from this initial chat, calling a spade, you're pretty fucking successful and you've aligned yourself with the right people. Can you share a little bit about I really want to get into the head of David Highland. What makes you successful? How do you think? What are your routines? What if you were to restart or to give a blueprint, could you share a bit of light about how somebody can be a success like yourself?
Look, I started in real estate in 97, so I'm 45, and we started the business when I was about 27. So you make lots of mistakes, and we still make mistakes. Nothing's perfect. Probably in that first 10 years, we made more mistakes than we do now, mainly at a staffing level. So
Staffing?
Yeah, I mean, looking back on it, there's no blueprint for what we're doing, and I wasn't academic at school, so I had the privilege of going to a good school. I went to Scott's in Bellevue Hill, but I didn't mark very well. School wasn't really for me. So real estate was one of those industries that I kind of fell into because the family, that was their background. But you get into real estate as early as I did. I mean, I started when I was 17, and there's no, and I had a few different people over those years that were very impactful to my career, and I was faced with different decisions as we went along that may have changed where we ended up. But in hindsight, I wouldn't change anything. But I'm the first one to admit that our success has come from our failures as well. We've had some pretty challenging times over the years. And
when you say challenging, is there an event that comes to mind that really rocked you?
Oh yeah, I don't know if I'd say it in this forum, but we had an event 10 years ago that we had a number of people leave on a certain day, and it was an important day for me personally, and that really knocked me around. But the lesson in that was, we had to reflect on what we were doing at a leadership level, and these people were just ambitious sales agents. So we've seen it plenty of times since, but because of where we're at that point, it was one of those moments that really, I grew a lot from it, and we became better people managers because of it. I don't think we were doing anything fundamentally wrong at the time, but you have to grow up very quickly when you have a turning point like that. And I'm actually grateful for it happening, because in hindsight, the business grew exponentially after it. We made some pretty serious changes internally, and they've obviously worked. But our business model now is joint ventures, it's partnerships. It's about us collaborating, sharing, and nurturing, the next generation of Highland people.
What happens when you do get knocked around and you normal people are just flat, they're just gone? What do you say in your mind to just push through and get ahead?
I'm very, I'd say I'm fairly disciplined. I'm up early, I look after myself.
What time are you waking up?
I'm up every morning at least by 5, but I go to bed early as well. I've got 4 young kids, so I've got plenty of reasons to get up in the morning. The thing about adversity is just, and this is just resilience. It's about how you pick yourself up. If you reflect on lockdown, there is no scarier period for me than that March period where nobody had heard of COVID. I'd just come back I'd been snowboarding in the US, and they were just starting to talk about it.
Wow.
And I walked into a business that was having a record month, and the same month that we're having record sales, we're shutting the doors. And I remember going home at 8 o'clock at night one night, just completely terrified. And they were the unknowns. But again, I wouldn't change that. In fact, I'm grateful for that happening, because you just learn so much about yourself and your people. Watching your people pivot in really tough times that's really where the magic happens. And really seeing your leadership team get around you when things are hard. That's the stuff that really bonds people.
So true. I was actually speaking to Hannon about this yesterday when we were talking about adversity and going through these pain points. But I think what we came to realise is no matter how bad you think it is, it's never that bad.
No, it's never that bad.
It's never that bad. It's never as bad as you think it is. And I think once you get in your mind that, this is bad, it just self-perpetuates. But if you just cut it and go, yeah, this is good, it's going to be fine, and push through.
And the other thing is you've got to, the more you go through those challenges as well, I find that the more you sort of enjoy it when you're in the mix, and you become very good at navigating through challenging periods. I mean, right now we're in a challenging environment, however you look at it. That I feel in my comfort zone at a leadership level because I've had all these other things happen. No, it doesn't faze me. I'm not going home overthinking it. I'm not waking up at 1 o'clock in the morning.
When did it change? Because I bet you it wasn't like that always.
No, it wasn't. I'd say the last 3 to 5 years for sure.
3 to 5 years.
Well, because you learn as well not to sweat the small stuff, and I'm blessed, and there's so much trust. I'm blessed to have so many good people around me that I know when things get really funky, we're all just going to rally around each other.
Yeah, nice.
Because something too that I've observed with life through my own experiences. Yes, we can say it's not as bad as it may seem, but when you're in the shit, it can feel as though things are just super intensified, emotions are drawn out, and you lose clarity, and your ability to think clear and problem solve almost reduces. Whereby you become you're not the same soldier you were. I'd really love to understand how you navigate in the storm, where you're in the boat, stuff's going around you, and you're actually in that energetic state where you actually just don't know how to paddle out. How have you been able to?
When we're going through any period, and it may not be a challenging event. It may be just we're in the middle of an acquisition. I mean, the workload for me is at an all-time high when we're merging an office. Now, I make sure that I'm feeling pretty good about myself when we're in that, but I actually have the awareness now to manage myself better. So one of the observations in times of adversity, particularly with sales agents, is they go through a tough time, they take it out on themselves. Things just get a lot worse. They're cloudy in terms of the way that they're looking at things. They're not managing themselves emotionally. Emotional management is everything. But if you can kind of compartmentalise the issue, and you're feeling good, and you're making clear decisions, and you might be under a lot of pressure, but you're approaching these issues the right way. I think in most cases you'll make the right decisions. But I mean, the other thing is just having visibility around the issue, and not at any one time, but we've always got a lot of visibility around what's happening in our business. So if there are headwinds, we can move very quickly because I'm not trying to catch up on data.
Okay. At the moment, currently, David, you do a lot of your business. There's a lot of off the plan marketing sales.
Yes.
And you do a lot of residential. Is it split 50-50?
In terms of the fees? Most of the developers are paying us 50% on exchange.
No, I mean, I'm sorry, my apologies. In terms of how many actually sell per year, is half of it being sold via project marketing and half through standard resale residentials?
You're talking about our sales volume?
Yeah, sales volume, yeah.
Oh, no. Our residential business would represent 75 to 80%.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I mean, we've got a much bigger stock sheet with projects, but projects can take, like we said before, 5 years.
Yeah, a few years.
So, look, the one thing that we've learnt over the years is focus on the residential business, because whether the market goes up or down, regardless of the environment, it's the cornerstone of our success. You can always rely on the residential business.
Yeah.
You may not be doing the same volumes, but it doesn't dry up. Projects can get very hard very quick. And in the good times, projects, we do very well. Yeah. When things are hard, you're playing the long game.
Yeah. In terms of staff, you've obviously hired a lot of staff over the years. Why do you think there's been such I'm not sure about your business, but an industry problem which I've seen is there's a big revolving door with assistants, they come and go. Do you think that's a problem with the agents that's teaching the assistants what to do, or do you think it's more to do with the assistant itself?
I think that's a case by case type of approach. Our HR and recruitment division is responsible for about 50 interviews per month.
Wow, 50.
That's their KPI, and some months they do a lot more than that. The thing is about salespeople as a whole. They're not typically great people managers.
Yes, that's what
they're irrational, and I'm not saying this broadly. They can be irrational, is what I'm saying. they can be short-sighted. They can be impatient. The best salespeople that I've seen in our business are the ones that have held their team long-term together. So, the top 3 in our group have had, David being one of them, they've had the same sales assistants for years. The ones that turn them over every quarter, every 6 months, every 12 months, they just start again. But normally, and it's candidate dependent, but if they've got a good candidate, it doesn't mean they don't blow them up. The success is the agents having awareness around their own management styles and the responsibility on us in terms of coaching them the right way. So it's not just on them. We've actually got to make sure that we're nurturing them, so they're nurturing their sales teams. And if we can hold all that together long enough, then they all learn from it.
If you were back, say, in your 20s again, and you wanted to create success, what would be the first few moves? Would it be to acquire some fixed income, like with property management, invest in real estate, double down on building your earned income?
Yes.
What would be your first kind of 3 moves?
Property for me came later.
Yeah.
So we've had a fairly aggressive sort of property strategy for the last 10 years, but for the first 5, I didn't buy any real estate. It was all reinvestment. So we literally invested everything back in the business for the first 5 years. The rent roll side of things, rent rolls can be a very sticky business to be involved in, so very predictable in terms of its income. And once you sort of look at your property management division as a feasibility sort of study as well, there's a high profit margin that's available for them, but you can also get it very, very wrong. So if you don't have the right people in place, the right leadership structure, you shouldn't be buying them, because you can very quickly tear up a lot in terms of that asset. And our mandate is to grow our rent roll to about 10,000.
10,000.
But I wouldn't be doing it unless I had a very clear business plan with people that also have skin in the game. So we've got a number of shareholders which are responsible for the success of that business.
Are you property managing up in Gold Coast?
No. It's just project marketing.
Project marketing. Got you. You've seen some really successful agents and some not so successful agents. What do you think separates the elite from the not elite?
Oh, it's really simple. Work ethic. Yeah. And transparency.
Work ethic and transparency.
Yeah. So you name one agent that that you've spoken to, and you've spoken to everybody, that doesn't have a high work ethic. It just doesn't exist.
Same traits, yeah.
It's the same traits.
First time I've heard someone say transparency though. Transparency, and I think it's a real thing, because I'll go into listing appointments and I feel like I'm the only one telling the truth about the price.
Yeah.
I've got one that I'm about to take back on. It's passed in 3 times this year at auction with 3 different agents. And they're like, oh yeah, you were right the first time. I'm like, yeah. But it's true. The transparency's starting to come through with me now, years later. But man, that's the first time someone's actually said that.
So, I mean, look, the client's needs now are very different to what they were 10 years ago. Your visibility it can be your best and your worst asset. So there's just so much information that these clients can get on you now. I read an article on the weekend. The younger agents have the ability to scale their businesses a lot harder now because of social media and AI and all these other things that are available that we didn't have. Equally, they're also the same things that will get them in trouble at a brand level. My view is that I think the agent moving forward probably needs to take a view that the clients want faster response times. They want information at their fingertips. They're not going to wait, but they also rely on you being honest and transparent.
Yeah.
It's not the old days where it's like the Wild West where you can kind of get away with the wrong things. It's not that industry anymore.
Yeah.
It's definitely been cleaned up.
Now, we've got some questions here.
Go for it.
How they diversified into project marketing? How did you initially do that?
Project marketing for me, and I mentioned this before, started before. I mean, let me start again. My experience with project marketing started before residential. So I was involved in a small boutique agency in Randwick in 1997 that only did project marketing and site acquisition. So that was really where I cut my teeth. Later, I got into residential, so I got into residential in my 20s. It was like a full circle for me to come back to project marketing. Project marketing is very specialised. You shouldn't be doing, in my view, and this is a broad statement, you shouldn't be doing, or at least trying to specialise in project marketing and residential at the same time. I haven't seen anyone do that successfully. You're either one or the other. Our business is specialised, so I've got key people that just run project marketing, but the transition for us happened off the back of a project opportunity. So I listed a significant project in Cronulla, and at the same time we opened that division.
Okay. So were you in the trenches actually selling
I was in the trenches selling off the plan until about 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
What do you prefer? What did you prefer, project marketing or sales?
When the market is favourable, project marketing is a great space to be in because it's high volume, it's very scalable. The challenge with project marketing is consumer confidence. So buyers don't typically want to buy things when the market's on the way down.
Yeah.
Regardless of any market.
Yeah.
Especially off the plan, like.
But it's a fun space. You're talking, you're dealing in square metre rates, and you get the opportunity to work with some great clients. I also worked out later that it was, I could write a lot more if you go and sign up a $40 million or $50 million project than pedal hard on residential homes. But experience also tells you that, the good times are not sustainable in that space either. It's very much ebbs and flows. Our project marketing business goes very, very well when things are good. When things are harder, your responsibility is to manage your developer clients, and that can sometimes take as long as the cycle does.
Yeah, wow. Now, another question a viewer's asked us, talk about the waterfront market in the Shire and its insane growth, i.e. Burraneer, etc.
I live in Burraneer, so I can talk firsthand. So for the last 10 years or more, we've had about 70% market share in Burraneer. Wow. I'm not actively managing those campaigns myself, but I've got a great team that do. The thing about Burraneer, so there's only 900 homes on that peninsula.
Yeah.
So it's a very insulated market. It's a supply and demand issue regardless of what the cycle's doing. But the waterfront market is still undervalued. The top end is still 20 million. If you compare what you're getting for 20 million in Burraneer compared to what you're getting in the eastern suburbs, it's about a third. It looks cheap. So, and it's only 35 minutes down the road without traffic. So I think the fundamentals for that market are very strong. But that's also speaking firsthand as someone that is living on the peninsula currently.
Do you enjoy living in the peninsula?
I've got 4 young kids, and it's a great place for them to grow up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about for you now, personally?
Oh, it's. I mean, we've got a beautiful property. We live on the water. It's just a great place to live and grow a family. But it's quiet, which is what I like. And it's the sort of community that has young families. It's but there's a certain amount of privacy as well that we enjoy.
Another viewer question, which I'm also keen to learn about. Your biggest learnings from growing from a team of 10 to 50 plus, and then to 100 plus. Well, now 200 plus.
Yeah, people management, definitely. Yeah. Get good at managing people.
How do you get better at that? Books?
Yes, books, podcasts. The learnings for me have come from meeting principals who are doing it at a higher level.
Yep.
So for many years, I was plugged into people in the sort of large real estate space that were scaling their businesses, and we were a few years behind them. The best lessons I got were from those peers, definitely.
So that's why Jay keeps calling you.
Who's that?
Is that why Jay, my boss, keeps calling you?
Look, you've actually got to look within the industry, and I'm blessed to have a lot of friends at a similar sort of network level that we can kind of bounce off. Sometimes I don't see them enough, but we all share information. That's the thing I love about our industry as well. It's at our level, it's not too catty. Everybody is collaborative, and we're plugged in to each other.
100%. Another question from a viewer: practical tips on getting through the early years when you aren't making a lot of money. Because I know I struggled with that.
Yeah, it's really simple. So keep your costs down. Don't go and buy a BMW at that point, even though we've all done it.
I did.
I remember some of the mistakes I made in my 20s. Look, you got to keep your costs down. And I know that a lot of people have said this. You've literally got to play the long game. For me, there was never a plan B. It was always real estate. And I wouldn't change a thing. I didn't imagine that we'd be in so many different areas of real estate now, but we had a mandate very early that we wanted to scale our real estate business. And if there's anything that I probably would have done earlier, I would have pushed the scaling harder in the first 10 years. I think at the time I probably didn't have enough visibility around my own personal cash flows, so we were kind of scrambling a little bit. Once we got a handle on that and we could accurately sort of create cash flow projections, then we understood what our recruitment model looked like. One of the things that we're big on now, which relates to that question, is recruiting for people that you're going to need in 6 or 12 months' time. So we're not actively sort of reacting to the recruitment needs of today. It's about what we might need later on down the track.
So let's say you've got a role you need filled in 6 to 12 months.
We're hiring now.
So you'd hire in advance.
Yeah.
How do you cash flow that?
Well, it depends on the individual. I mean, we've got the resources to be able to do it now. But back then...
Would you suggest that for people in our situation that aren't
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, look, it's
just got to make it work, right?
It's one of these... I see a lot of young agents in our business at the moment pulling back because the environment's hard. It's actually the best environment to do it. You've got more candidates available that you can talk to. When things are hot, these candidates are... You've got people knocking on their doors at the moment. There's a bigger recruitment pool available for good quality people. The second thing is your competitors are doing the same thing. They're pulling back. So my approach, our experience is swim against the tide in terms of what they're doing, but scale your businesses in times of adversity and just do whatever you got to do to make it work. You know, if you have to pull back on certain things at a personal level to reinvest that in your business, that's the commitment that'll pay dividends later on down the track.
So would you advise me to go harder in terms of personal branding and marketing now than I was before?
Absolutely.
So I'll give you a scenario. Yeah. Kevin's on track for 3, he wants to go to 6
wow.
mil.
Congratulations.
Well,
you can afford whatever you like at that level.
How would you get?
They're big numbers. Look, you're getting from 1 to 3 is harder than 3 to 6.
Yeah.
And I've written those numbers for a number of years in our own personal sort of business units. The opportunity for an agent in that situation is now. The market's hard. There's adversity. People are scared. People also, your consumers need safety and performance in this market. So if you turn up with work ethic, transparency, and then you double down on your own personal brand, you'll actually find that in this market you'll pick up market share. We've always been more successful in hard times. Now is the time that we are scaling, we're recruiting, we're buying property, we're doing new fit outs, we're merging offices. I mean, you can see all these things happening in our business. I'm not waiting for the market to turn around to do that. I'm doing it now because the market will turn around at some point. But the market will correct itself. And let's face it, things aren't that bad.
They're not terrible.
And what's the worst that can happen, really?
That's exactly right. But it also the approach should be about building like a black belt sort of team around as well that will support your vision and support your growth. But then the success needs to be around how you incentivize them and you create buy-in, and you have to make it worth their while. But right now, I think that we're probably at the tail end of this cycle, and my advice to everybody inside it and outside of our business model is scale up.
Yeah. Do you believe that and it's so hard to pick, right? But if over the next 6 to 12, do you believe the Sydney market will go up, steady, or down? I don't think, take a guess.
Okay, I don't think anybody knows what interest rates are going to do. Everybody that's been in a position where I've taken advice off them about what rates we're going to do this year, they've got it wrong. So I'm not going to be one of those people, but I can tell you that I think that there's a shortage of stock available. I think we work in markets where there's a fair amount of depth, in terms of its wealth, and whilst there's cost of living pressures, I think that the fundamentals are still pretty strong. You know, there's still, regardless of what market we're in, there's still enough volume there to tell me that whether even if they did increase rates by a little bit, I think the market will be okay. You know, it's consumer confidence which gets hammered.
Yeah.
You're not going to. I don't think you're going to see this plummet of 30% on property values. I can't see that happening. But I think it's case dependent on the area. You're seeing some markets where there's discretionary spending, and Southern Highlands, parts of Queensland, for example, they're pulling back a little bit. But in terms of Sydney broadly, it's a super strong environment. What do you think?
I think the hills, we've got an oversupply issue. I think there is definitely some pain with the inflation and cost of living in my area, but at the same time, it's not massive. I think it's more to do with the fact that there's just such an oversupply right now, which is like, I'm having conversations with my main competitors a couple of days ago, and I'm like, yeah, oversupply issue. Like he goes, my main competitor's like, yep, we've listed 16 houses in the past week. I'm like, damn. He's like, yep, we're going to be launching 4
this week. A lot of houses.
Like, damn. So that's a lot, and that's just one competitor. And then I look at myself, and I've also listed a lot. I think, well, if we've both listed a lot, and it's only winter, I can only imagine what spring's going to be like. So I think in our area, I don't know if there will be a drop or anything. I don't know about that, but I definitely don't think there'll be growth, or at least exponential growth over the next 6 months.
No.
That's for sure.
Do you know what's interesting from a buyer's agent perspective is I'll speak to high performing agents that do control a lot of the stock, and they're actually retaining a lot off market and actually controlling when they launch so that it's not oversupplied. I'm noticing that in New South Wales, but if you look at other states we buy in, it's so much demand still that
it's unpredictable. It's unpredictable. No one can predict it.
Markets within markets.
The markets within markets. The other thing that, if you look at the data, July across Sydney was very different to May and June in terms of supply, but also in terms of volumes. In some of our markets, I feel like the real estate agents have also conditioned the clients not to do anything in July, whereas we had some great results through that period. So, you know, I believe that rates will be on hold at least until the end of the year, but I wouldn't rule out an increase either. So whether that happens just after, I don't know. I mean, nobody has a handle on this, but whether they do or they don't, the point is, I think the market's going to be stable, and I think at a real estate level, there's still plenty of opportunity, and I think there's more opportunity because it's hard to grow your businesses.
Are you big on setting goals or visions and all that? Do you have a process or any tips?
Personally, we usually set them, and we do this across the group. There's business goals, which as a sales agent, I mean, they're easy ones. Your personal goals might be family, and then financial goals are generally how you deal with, you know, personal spending, mortgages, those types of things. And we're very disciplined around how we set them, but we also set them with our salespeople.
How often do you look at them?
Personally, I probably look at them every sort of 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
But my own personal goals change quite a lot as well. My goals these days are probably more family related than they are about the business, but the business is quite fluid, and there's, you know, the opportunities that we're talking to at the moment they didn't exist sort of 3 months ago. So it's a bit of a moving target at the moment. You know,
what do you find gives you the most fulfillment now?
At a work level,
in general. Like, cause
my kids are obviously, without sounding too cliche, I mean, the kids are the focus. My wife and my kids are my focus. Yeah. The business opportunity is incredibly exciting for us because we're in this space that is not, like I said before, it's not traditional real estate. We're leveraging a platform that we've spent 17 years building, and that's what's getting me amped up at the moment. You know, seeing, you know, what can we do differently, and also how many different ways can we service our data. So if you just look at that multi-dimensional client, you know, they're not just typically selling houses now, they're all renting, they're doing insurance, they're doing home loans, they're renting a boat from us, they're doing all these other things. So how many different touch points can we create for that one consumer is probably where my head's at.
That's a wild thought. That's a wild way to think, actually. How did you get put in that mindset to just big exponential growth 24/7?
I was just wired like that. I'm highly energetic. I've always worked hard. I worked hard as a kid. I was given a pretty intense work ethic from my parents.
Yeah.
But also now, I mean, we've spent those 17 years building something which, you know, is a lot of fun to be involved in. Outside of the financial opportunity, it's just a lot of fun to be part of this growth.
Having fun.
Yeah, and we're doing it with our friends. I'm doing it with people that care and people that are part of that journey.
That's awesome.
Matt, my last question for you, what would be your best piece of advice for somebody in their 20s to succeed?
Best piece of advice. Best piece of advice that I've probably got is be fearless around growth.
Fearless around growth.
Yeah. So, you know, like we just talked about, you know, scaling in times of adversity, take risks, be prepared to grow, be your own toughest critic, get outside of your comfort zone.
My last question for you, I've got a lot on my plate, so there's a lot of other opportunities besides listing and selling real estate that I'm involved in at the moment, and it's trying to manage energy and manage time. Because you're in so many different spaces as well, what's been the biggest key unlock for you to really stay on top of everything all at one time?
Yeah, staying organised is and time management is everything. I've got a unbelievable EA, Connie, who's also worked with me for years, and I've been good at outsourcing and I hate the word delegating, but you know, it's really important to have good people around you that understand how you're wired and also understand what your vision is. I mean, what we're doing right now doesn't suit everybody, but to create buy-in, you also need to share with them why you're doing certain things. The time management side of things is a big part of that. So for me, it's the basics. I mean, if you looked at my diary today, outside of you guys, which is obviously my first appointment for the morning, it's very structured, and it's like that every week. Yeah. You know, turning up to work and being a little reactive around my days I'm working 2 or 3 weeks out now in terms of my management.
Wow.
Hannah, if you had a question, what would your question be?
At what point do you make the decision to invest heavily back into your business in terms of recruitment and growth and marketing? Like, do you think that people should live on as little as they can to reinvest in their personal brand and their business growth? And until their business is at a point where there's enough surplus that they can live a great life? Or how do you think people on the come up should structure that?
But are you talking about a sales agent or a principal or either or? Okay, so as a principal of a real estate office, you may or may not agree with this comment. I think there's 2 business models in real estate. There's either small boutique with low costs and you run it quite lean, or there's completely the other way, and you're in a business where you're scaling and you're constantly looking for growth. There's no middle ground, because middle ground there is no efficiencies in your costs. You can't get get efficiencies in terms of your expenses. But you know, talking about a sales agent, if you just look at the 2 types of sales agents in our industry, so you've got what I would call career agents, or you've got lifestyle agents. You've got to decide on which one you want to be. If you're a career agent, then there is no other way to do it. You should be just constantly reinvesting your dividends and your income back into obviously growth and people, and that comes with recruitment. You can't underestimate the power of scaling. And I've seen a lot of successful agents who, Bill Maloof's a great example. Bill's got an EA. Bill's still in his late 60s, is still really setting some great results. And but Bill is not that agent that will want 10 people around him. He just doesn't want him in his space. But he knows what he is. David, his son, on the other hand, is scaling and he's reinvesting, and they're just 2 completely different business models.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you,
Beautiful.
guys. I appreciate it. Thank you.